I have mixed feelings about this issue of the Rook magazine, issue number 9, that was published back in June of 1981. Hi, I'm Annie, and why am I starting off reading the Rook magazine with issue 9? Well, it is EuroComic Thursday, and every Thursday I talk about a European comic, and this is a British comic. But that does not explain the fact why am I reading issue 9 and not issue 1. Well, it is also GarbAugust, more information about that in the description box below. And there is the bingo card, and one of the prompts on the GarBingo card is more than 2 guns on the cover. And as you can see, there are 4 guns on this cover, so that fits the prompt. So that is why I am reading issue 9. So why do I have mixed feelings about it? It's not that I thought this was a bad magazine. There are 4 stories in this magazine, and it has really a lot of, most of the comics have a lot of action in it. So like the cover promises, a lot of manly action. There are 3 comic short stories in it, and there is 1 to be continued story in it. The first one starts off with a comic, the Rook Comic, and I found this the least interesting one in this magazine, I must admit. It was written by Richardson, and the illustrations were made by Lee Bermejo, and the story starts off with the Rook being captured. And maybe I should have read the other 8 the Rook stories in the other 8 previous the Rook magazine issues, because well, it is not that the Rook is a silent type of character, and I didn't mind it that much. But what annoyed me the most is that the Rook, he isn't doing very much in this comic. The most of the action is performed by other people in this comic, so I found this to be a bit of a pity. The story starts out with the Rook being captured, and the comic in this first couple of pages of the comic, first page of this comic, there is this super villain. Not that I mind a super villain, but he holds a long, bit boring monologue. So no, I didn't find this to be such a good story, I must admit. But the illustrations were decent. I found the illustrations quite good, actually. But they could have been better were it black, pure black and white, and not with the gray tones in it. But that's just my personal taste. So maybe you have a different taste. That's okay. The second story was GarbAugust I, which was written by Jim Stenstrum, and the illustrations were by Abel, Laxamana. And this is a superhero story, which I found fun as there is humor in it. But I must admit, I am not really a superhero fan, but when there is humor involved, I find that entertaining. Then Kronos by Lee Elias, he did the story and the illustrations, and I found this to be the best comic in this magazine. It is a to-be-continued story in 3 episodes. So for this review I also read the 2 other episodes because, well, I wanted to find out if the story was any good, and I was not disappointed. No! I found that this is a World War II story. Well, it starts out by this Vietnam veteran, and he has this arm which he cannot move. He cannot use his arm, and there is no medical explanation for it, so he goes into under hypnosis, because they want to find out if he is repressing some experience that he had in Vietnam. And something strange happens. He gets transported. Well, he remembers a former life as a World War II German soldier who is stationed in the Eastern Front. So I found that really, really interesting. And the story is, well, it's not really an original story, but it is about these 2 people who are on the opposite sides of the war, and they fall in love. But not that it is some sloppy, soft love story. No, there is plenty of action in it as well. So I found this to be the best story in this comic. And I found the idea of reincarnation I found very interesting. I'm not saying that there is such a thing as reincarnation. There could also be something like some overlapping big universal consciousness or something in which we can tap into when under hypnosis, some universal conscious, which could explain the fact that under hypnosis people can speak languages that they have never learned and remember stuff that happened in history that actually happened without them in their lives learning about these things. So that could also be an explanation for it, I think. But I'm not stating that there is such a thing, but I'm not excluding the fact that there is could be reincarnation, or that there could be some sort of universal consciousness in which we can tap into under hypnosis. I'm not excluding that, but that's for another time to discuss, and another place perhaps also. It's not really a booktube subject. So there is one other short story in this the Rook magazine, and that is Voltar by Alfredo P. Alcala. I forget the illustrations of Elias made in Kronos. I also find really excellent. I find them just great. These are really realistic illustrations, and I think they are great. Were I a nitpicking person, you could say in some of the illustrations the hands are very slightly off at times, but you hardly notice it. I'm not complaining anyway. So back to the last short story in this magazine, and that is Voltar, like I said, by Alfredo P. Alcala. Kata. And this is a fantasy story and I found it really entertaining. It is action-packed. There is pulpy dialogue in it and real great fighting scenes that take place in dungeons with goblins and such. There is a super villain and there is a messiah, as well as our hero is a fighting barbarian who equals somebody like a legend like Conan. So I enjoy that very much. So in this issue number 9 of the Rook, there are, in my opinion, 2 great stories in it, one highly entertaining story and one not so entertaining story. All in all, I didn't find this to be a bad magazine, The Rook. The first issue was published in October of 1979 and I think it ran for 14 issues. The last issue being published in April of 1982. But the Rook first appeared in an Eerie issue, I think it was Eerie issue 82, and that was published back in March of 1977. Link to where you can find the Rook magazines and you can read them for free in the description box below. Meanwhile, keep those pulp juices flowing and I hope to see you in the next video.